This meeting is being recorded. It's just that sound from the Zoom voice always gives me a fright. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This presentation is about PwC and specifically more about our financial advisory services and what happens inside our teams there. So I think the best place to start is with introductions. So I'll start. I'm Dom. I work in the early careers team at PwC. I've been with the firm since August last year, and I have a really random background. I did a certificate in radio broadcasting, realized it wasn't for me, so moved through to a Bachelor of Communications at the mighty Waikato. So yeah, and I'm actually based in Hamilton, so no grief about that. Thank you. And yeah, I'm really lucky to now be a recruiter at the Big Four, one of the Big Four, sorry, and yeah, really cool to be able to help students get in their foot in the door and into the corporate world. I'll hand over to Candice to introduce yourself.
Kia ora team, my name is Candice and I sit in our PwC Legal team in our Auckland office. I started with PwC Legal in February of 2019, so I'm going into my fourth year now. Studied at Auckland University, conjoint Bachelor of Laws and Bachelor of Commerce, and then went straight into a grad role at PwC Legal.
Awesome, thank you. And I'll hand over to Nicole.
Hey team, obviously my name is Nicole. I am in my third week here at PwC. I'm just a grad in the tax team, in the financial advisories team. I studied at Canterbury. I've noticed a couple familiar names on the Zoom call, which is kind of cool. Yeah, and so I studied at Canterbury with a law and commerce degree as well. I got involved a bunch of stuff at the university and I absolutely loved it, and I am stoked to be part of PwC this year.
Awesome, thank you. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Myra.
Hi everyone, I'm Myra and I'm just headed into my fifth and final year of my conjoint law and commerce degree at Victoria University in Wellington. I'm a casual intern in PwC Legal, and I've been casually working in our Wellington office since January 2019, so also heading into my fourth year. And I just finished my legal internship with PwC Legal and going to continue on as an intern and start up as a grad next year.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I think the best place to start after the introductions is talking about our values and our purpose. So PwC New Zealand employs over 1,700 people, and we have offices in Auckland, Waikato, Hawke's Bay, Wellington, Canterbury, and Otago. And with PwC, you'll belong to a whānau, a community of problem solvers where differences are embraced. We empower you with technology, coaching, flexibility, and trust needed to make a meaningful difference. And while supporting your authentic self each day, we're committed to building and maintaining a diverse workforce because we know it's only by working together that we can realize the potential of our people, clients, and society around us. So with that, we have our purpose and our values. While we come from different backgrounds and cultures, our values are what we have in common. They describe the expectation our clients should have of us, guide how we work with each other, and hold us accountable to do our best. They govern our actions and enable our success. So we have 5 core values, which act with integrity, make a difference, care, work together, and reimagine the possible. Our 5 values and their underlying behaviors set the context in which we strive to fulfill our purpose, which is to build trust in society and solve important problems. So with that, it's why we do what we do, and every day, we hear about our values and our purpose, and yeah, it's the reason why we're at PwC. We're really, wanting to help solve some problems and definitely build trust in society. So a big tip for me already into this presentation, I really want to make it clear that, if you mention our values or look how to align to our values in your CV and your application form, that's a really big bonus. I would recommend doing your research and seeing if our values align to you and you align to us. Is a really, yeah, like I keep saying, it's a really a big bonus, and something I think we don't share enough, the benefit of definitely doing your research on the company and finding out what our purpose and our values are. Awesome. So now we move through to financial advisory. So this year we are recruiting in a lot of different business areas, but this call is specifically about our PwC Legal, private business and tax. So what I'll do is I'll hand over to Nicole to talk a little bit about tax, and then we'll go through the list on the screen.
Cool. So like I mentioned earlier, I am a tax associate. I have been in the company for only like 3 weeks. So a limited knowledge, but still enough to get by. But what we do in the tax team is a lot of consulting work. So we advise clients of like with their complex tax issues. And I know a few of my managers and stuff like that as well, who work with government and policy. So it's a real good range of work. We use a lot of amazing tech, which I've already gotten trying to get my head around, but still getting there. But yeah, no, we do a whole bunch of stuff. So even if you don't have an accounting degree, that's absolutely okay. Most of our team actually don't have accounting degrees, and a lot of us have law degrees. So it's an awesome opportunity to get in amongst and really give like tangible solutions to our clients, which is really quite cool, which is something I also really wanted in my graduate career as well. So really good mix, a lot of accounting, a lot of consulting, a little bit of accounting. But yeah, I guess it's kind of the tax team.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And Myra, I wanted to see if you'd talk about private business.
Yep, I can speak to that for a bit. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been interning within financial advisory since my second year of uni, but I don't have a tax or accounting background. My commerce major is public policy. So as Nicole said, it's not really necessary to have that tax or accounting knowledge. A lot of what I've done within FAS or financial advisory is largely tax policy or research. So a good combination of the skills that I've learned through my law degree, which has been great. But in terms of private business, it's probably the more technical side of financial advisory. So it involves a lot of preparing financial statements, filing income tax, GST, FBT, PAYE returns, and providing financial and accounting advice to largely small to medium enterprises. So if you do have a tax and accounting background, private business is probably a greater application of those practical skills that you would have learnt throughout uni.
Yeah, awesome. And then last but not least, PwC Legal, and I'll hand over to Candace to speak.
Cool, thank you. So PwC Legal, we're quite new. We started in 2016, so just coming up 6 years. We have specialists in corporate and commercial, employment, real estate, advisory, and as well as tax. We're probably a team of about close to 40 now, which is really cool. And we work quite closely with a lot of our other PwC lines of service, so consulting, tax, deals, to provide really practical and pragmatic solutions to our clients, which is epic for someone coming in as a grad role, like I was a few years ago. Being able to actually learn a bit more about what PwC does as a whole and learn alongside other lines of service, as well as applying your kind of legal skills, is just an absolute awesome, very different experience to what you get at a traditional kind of law firm. But yeah, we advise obviously on all aspects of corporate and commercial, tax, real estate, employment, and yeah, it's a very brief overview of PwC Legal.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, that's the overview of financial advisory services, and there will be a chance to ask questions coming up. But I thought this would be a good time to talk about our graduate and intern process. So our applications are opening on the 7th of March, which is next week. We are looking, like I said, for different business areas. So I will send a link to the team at UC to send out to you guys to check that out. But what I thought I'd do is take you on the journey through our application process. So of course, starting off is why PwC. This is a time for you to do your research and figure out, what you want to do and where you want to go with your career. From there, you come through to your application form. So it's the standard kind of application form where we ask for your CV and your transcript as well. In your application form, I do recommend, like I said before, with the values and the purpose, show us how that aligns with you and your values and your purpose. And also another thing to point out is definitely we want to see what you did inside uni, so any clubs you joined or any tutoring you did, as well as anything you did outside of uni. So if you joined a sports club or did volunteering hours for something that's completely different to your degree, we want to know, what you got up to, because this is the time where we get to kind of get a sense of who you are before actually meeting you. So definitely take the time to fill out your application form. And then from there, you'll get sent our assessment, interview and testing. They'll send in the same email. So please do take your time again to set yourself up for success. I would do some research on how to answer behavioral questions. So we have a method that we like to, share with people. Is called STAR. So it's situation, task, action, and results. So those are the ways you should be forming your answer back for any examples that you give us in the questions. And then from there, you go through to the final interview, which is with a business leader. And that is the time actually where you can interview us a little bit. So getting questions prepared that you want to know about the company, doing your research, looking at our LinkedIn, our Facebook, our Instagram, things that we've posted, and seeing what actually interests you. And definitely coming back to us and asking us questions is, because you have to align with us, but we really want to make sure we align with you too. And then, the outcome. So if you are successful, we will be offering you and giving you a contract. And if you are unsuccessful, we will be taking the time to give you some feedback, because, we want to make sure that you get some really good value out of our process. And then, you start at PwC, which will be awesome. So, any questions on the recruitment process, please do put it in the next part where we move through to questions. So with that, we are going to move to a Kahoot. It's not a quiz, I promise. We just want to know a little bit more about what you know about PwC and answer any questions you may have. And it's a bit of a more anonymous way to ask. So please do feel free to ask any questions. And if you could just join the code on the screen and we'll go from there. This is where we need elevator music, this part. Cool. I'll give it a one more, like 30 more seconds, but if you also have questions and you missed out joining the Kahoot, you can also put them in the chat, which would be good. Cool. All right. Awesome. We'll get started. So the first question we have is, we're actually wanting to know what you know about PwC. So when you think of PwC, what one word comes to mind? And it can be any word, maybe not a swear word, but any other word would be great. So anything that comes to mind when you think of PwC. Cool. All right. So I knew accounting would probably be the most popular, and definitely is the old school way of thinking about even the Big Four as a whole. But we are more than just an accounting firm. For us, because we are a part of the Big Four, but I think a really good opportunity for us to say our point of difference is, we have an amazing culture and amazing people, and it sounds really fluffy when I'm saying that, but I truly think people stay at PwC because of how amazing the people are around you. Everyone's trying to set you up for success so that we can all do really great things. PwC team, is there anything that's popping out to you that seems a bit interesting or anything different that you would like to add on to? Nope. Cool. All right. Well, we'll move through to the next part. So this section is for if you have any questions for us. And like I said before, it's anonymous. So please do feel free to ask us anything. And if you have more than one question, feel free to put it in the chat. I made this be like 90 seconds, but it's probably a little bit too long. Maybe there is no question. So what we can do maybe is just speak a little bit about what we find awesome at PwC, just as we talk. So for me personally, like I said before, the people and the culture are amazing. I started during lockdown, so I actually have only been to the office 3 times. And yeah, you wouldn't know that I've only been to the office 3 times because it feels like straight away I felt very included and not super strange that I hadn't met anyone in person. What about you guys, Nicole, Myra, Candice?
Yeah, I started obviously 3 weeks ago, and our first week we had induction calls. So because of COVID, we had to do everything from home. But the first couple of days we did a firm-wide induction, so we got to meet all the other grads from everywhere around New Zealand. And we actually ended up like hanging out on like Google Meets and chatting with each other, which was really cool. There's a lot of group chats now, which is really nice as well. And we're kind of stuck in it all together. We try to help each other out wherever we can as well, which is really awesome. But definitely outside of your main office, so my main office is in Christchurch. I have lots of new friends in different offices as well. So, and everyone's been so helpful and so welcoming and just excited that we are a part of the team. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, awesome. And I think you kind of touched on this first question already, Nicole, but how was your onboarding? I know it's virtual and typically you'd be in person, but was there anything that stood out to you as, you know, something that worth mentioning to the students?
Yeah, so are they like, if you're asking about like the graduate process of like doing the applications and the CVs and stuff, it was really full on. Not PwC just in general, but just like I know it's a lot to be firing out heaps of CVs and cover letters and doing all the tests, but it's definitely worthwhile to like get to know the company, make sure that you actually really want to be there and that they align with your values. PwC is really value driven, so it's really cool when you're able to like link your own values to your company. So that process was awesome for me because I finally found a company that I resonated with, which was really cool. Yeah, but the onboarding process was pretty quick. I'm pretty sure I applied like the second day the applications opened. I got a message to do all my testing. I did it like the day after, and then my interview process was really quick as well. I think I had a job offer within 2 weeks of applying. So PwC really does move quick. So if you are wanting to join up with PwC, do it as quickly as you can. But then once we started, got to meet the team throughout the year. So my last year of uni was last year. Got to meet the team throughout the year, which was really cool. And then, like I said, induction last week. I've been in the office for the last 2 weeks, which has been awesome. I'm just working from home over the last couple of days just because I'm not feeling very good. But that was just me being, I guess, just safer than, yeah, just being safe. So, but everyone's awesome. Onboarding's been great. It's been such a smooth process. PwC obviously takes a lot of grads all the time, and they just have nailed the process. So very easy. Got a cool box full of PwC merch and gear, which is awesome. But yeah, no, really, really cool.
Awesome. And I guess for you, Myra, you would have done some sort of onboarding before COVID hit. What was that like?
So I can speak to intern onboarding a bit more. It was during COVID, I guess, so it was still virtual. So typically onboarding or the induction week, you get flown up to Auckland and you have a week up there to meet all your intern or grad cohort, but virtual, given the circumstances, was just as great. It's awesome because we got to meet everyone online, and then there's also 3 days, which is, I guess, specific training to whatever business unit that you're in. So for legal, we had specific workshops that were geared towards our legal internship. So in terms of like legal writing, or how to go about doing legal research and things like that. So it was quite specific to what we were going to be working on, which was really great. And then there were also social opportunities as well. Obviously, given the COVID climate, it wasn't the same as if it was in person, but online was fantastic as well. And in terms of support, which I think is something that I'd always thought about when I started at PwC, the support system is fantastic. So you get given a coaching team and you have a buddy who's typically only a year older than you, so a graduate or an associate. And then you have a coaching manager and a coaching partner. So you have a really good support network, which is great. And that's throughout your whole time at PwC, not just when you're an intern or a grad.
Yeah, awesome. And Candice, I assume you're someone's buddy or coaching partner or coaching manager. Have you, or yourself, have you had any experience with the onboarding process? I know you're a different sort of hire into PwC, but it'd be cool to hear from that as well.
Yeah, so I came in 2019 as a grad. So it was pre-COVID. The whole New Zealand grad cohort for that year got flown up to Auckland for a week. It was awesome. A lot of breakout rooms, as Myra already mentioned, in terms of kind of getting to know your specific business unit, but also getting able to know others across New Zealand. And I think it's actually more important than you realize, because PwC is so now kind of remote and really ingrained in like kind of working wherever you want. So we do work with our teams in Christchurch and in Wellington and whatever, and actually building those connections from being a grad with your other kind of cohort around New Zealand is actually really awesome, and also kind of important from like a kind of team kind of client approach. But great socializing, you know, as Nicole mentioned, you get all the merch, which is fun. But yeah, it's great. You get some really cool speakers in to talk to you about what they do. You get the CEO in, kind of can't fault it. But also a coaching manager to 2 juniors at the moment. And we all try as the coaching team to be really hands-on and really supportive in the first kind of few years, knowing that it's going to be a very different environment than you're used to. So we absolutely make sure that you have all the support that you want and you need.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a really good, yeah, I think we kind of are drumming in the same idea. As you've got so much support around you. So the experiences may be different with COVID and non-COVID life, but it's still the same in the sense of support. So it's really cool. Thank you. One of the questions is, how is your work-life balance? And I think, to be completely transparent with you, you know, there are definitely times where you are working a little bit longer, but then there are also times when you have, you know, shorter days, and you know, PwC is really flexible with that. And yeah, I feel really lucky that if I have some sort of appointment or something I need to get to, I'm able to block up my calendar, and I'm trusted that I will go to that appointment and come back to work if needed. And yeah, I really like that aspect. And I'm not sure if you guys want to add to it, but yeah, I'm really appreciative of PwC and the flexibility.
Yeah, just on that work-life balance thing. So as Dominic mentioned, not to sugarcoat it, there will be days when you have to work late. That's just the nature of professional services. But at the same time, just by way of example, in the legal team, if there are people in the office kind of at 6:30 or when the partners are leaving, they will absolutely always come up to you and say, is there something that, you know, we can do to help out, so that it's kind of the load is halved, so you both get out of there earlier or whatever. And I guess that just goes back to the support piece. It's really a team effort, and that's very much ingrained in our values and actually how we work. And I think there's a big misconception with the Big Four that we're always working to like 10 p.m. every night, and that is totally not the case.
just to add on to that as well, just in the last few weeks, it's been really cool to like be with the team, and we have regular meetings about our capacity as well. So whether we can take on work, whether we would like to share it, just the same as Candace mentioned as well. So if you did have lots going on, it's an open conversation, and it's totally okay if you can't pick up any more work. Yeah, so it's just again really supportive. And yeah, I guess you have days that you work a little bit longer, or if there's a client deadline, but other than that, everyone's real team mentality, so it's so shared across the board.
Yeah, I guess I can add on to that. I mean, as an intern, the work-life balance is fantastic. Because I've been working with uni as well, the balance between uni and work, as Dominique said, like the flexibility is fantastic. The firm's always been super understanding that studies come first. So even when you're a grad and you might be doing your legal profs or your CA, they're really supportive in terms of your studies. So in terms of uni and work, or your professional and work-life balance, it's really great. And in terms of social events as well, obviously because of COVID, we can't really have in-person events, but even then there's always virtual events going on. And it's not just all about work, you know, like we have heaps of social events and opportunities where we can interact with each other outside of that kind of professional environment as well, which is great.
Yeah, I think another thing to point out is, you know, there's a lot of perks of PwC. So we get, you know, gym memberships discounted and discounted health insurance and things. So PwC is really like conscious about our well-being, especially during these COVID times. So, you know, they definitely want us away from our screens, because we do not want to burn out and have to look at us, you know, because we're looking at screens so much lately. Yeah, so PwC is really big push for that, which is a really cool initiative. And I think, yeah, we don't talk about it enough. So, yeah, thanks team. How many student interns get accepted each year, and also when students should begin applying for summer internships during their degree? Good question. So PwC last year, or for this year, last year, we had 100 interns start. So we do have quite big numbers of interns, and it's a New Zealand wide. It's not just Auckland, which is really exciting. And I think for students, and to take my PwC hat off and just, you know, as a recruiter, I would recommend that, you know, students should be starting to look for internships even in their first and second year, just to see what's out there. For us at PwC, we really love having people that have gone away and had lots of experiences at other companies, and to bring all the, you know, all the skills that you've learned outside from us is really great. So I'd recommend that as definitely to start looking in your first and second year, just to see what's out there. Even if you can't apply it, it's good to have that knowledge before, you know, going into your third and fourth year, fifth even years. So yeah, I would recommend definitely keeping your eye out, linking with people on LinkedIn. Networking is obviously a massive thing for us and students. I know you probably get told this all the time, but you should definitely step up your LinkedIn game and networking game. So, you know, for instance, if you want to, you feel free to add me after this call, because I've spoken to you now, and then you'll get to stay in touch with, you know, I post everything about when applications are opening, and yeah, you can definitely find out more information by connecting with me on LinkedIn. I thought another good opportunities with questions wise is to just ask the other PwC people. A really good question we had in a previous presentation was, what makes you what do you look forward to waking up to in the morning and going to work? Like, what is the thing that makes you wake up in the morning? And yeah, I probably worded that wrong, but you kind of get what I'm saying. I hope. But yeah, I'll hand it over to you guys. What do you look forward to with work? Maybe that's a better question.
I can speak to that first. I think there's two things for anyone who wakes up to their job every day. I think one is the actual work, and two is the people. And for me, in terms of the work, I know I was probably in your position, everyone, like a year ago, and I went to heaps of different law recruitment presentations just like this one, and the one question I always had was, what makes this law firm different to every other law firm presentation that I'm going to? And so I can speak specifically to PwC Legal, but first of all, the diversity of work, I think is fantastic and is something that you won't necessarily get at other big law firms. At a lot of those law firms, you might go through rotations, you might be in a litigation team for a few weeks and then an investment team for a few weeks. But with PwC Legal, the great thing about it is the diversity of work exposure. So as Candace touched on before, we have 4 different kind of areas. We've got tax, corporate commercial, employment, and real estate. And then within those, you get to, I guess, get an idea of what each one of those subunits have to offer. And at the start of my internship, I said, oh, I'm more interested in the employment or intellectual property side of things. So then people would come up to me if they had pieces of work in that area and ask me if I was interested, which was great. I got to have exposure to all these different types of work that I was really interested in, which was great. So that's number 1. And then number 2 is the people. The people that we work with are absolutely fantastic. The first misconception that I had when I first came to PwC, I was 18, fresh-faced, my first job, let alone first job in an office. And I guess the first thing I thought was that everyone would be really intimidating. It would be difficult to speak to the partners and anyone senior. But what I've learned over the past few years is that everyone is so approachable. It's so easy to talk to everyone, including directors and partners, and especially with PwC Legal, because it is such a small team in comparison to your bigger law firms. You get a lot of that one-on-one time with seniors, which is great. You learn so much more, and it's so invaluable having that one-on-one time that you might not necessarily get if you're in a bigger law firm. So that's definitely one thing that's fantastic about PwC Legal. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are probably the 2 main things. And lastly, actually, I wanted to touch on diversity in terms of diversity and inclusion. So I'm a woman from an ethnic minority, and in terms of diversity at PwC, that's always one thing I look for in terms of law firms. And we have a range of different networks. We have our Women in Leadership team, our Asian network, our Manukura Māori team. We have all these different networks, our PwC Shine for our LGBTQI plus community. So in terms of diversity and inclusion, it's fantastic. And as a woman from an ethnic minority, I've never felt excluded or a minority for that matter. So it's been fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that's awesome. And Nicole, if you have anything to add, that'd be awesome as well.
I think Mira's topped it all off. She's covered it. No, it really, I totally agree with Mira. One thing I also really enjoy about PwC is also the volunteering that we are able to do. PwC is really part of a lot of communities outside of business. In particular, they were really big in the club scene at UC. I'm pretty sure I met a whole lot of my team at club events, but also outside of that, we're really big in the community as well. So I've just personally signed up to 2 volunteering things, one called Flip and one called Toy Toy, which is pretty much going to lower South schools and reading to kids, as well as teaching them financial literacy as well. And I think that's just really awesome. It's just awesome to be able to use our degrees and skills in other aspects of our lives and just giving back to our community, which is really big for PwC. And again, just like Mira mentioned, just the amount of work that we get to do, not the amount, but the variety of work that we get to do is really, really awesome as well. And speaking to friends who have interned and currently working in other firms, they just don't get the same amount of stuff that we get to do. And I also just like to touch on the fact that I actually also didn't intern, and it's not a problem. So I think if you've got heaps of skills and just wanting to be a part of a team that's really inclusive and inviting, that's just really exciting, and that kind of gets you up and ready to go and really add value back to the community. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's a good point, Nicole, is so, I talked about before about making sure you talk about, the different passion projects you've had or hobbies or anything you've had outside of school. And I think another point is we understand if you haven't had work experience that we definitely, you know, if you've had it, please put it on your CV. And if you haven't, we totally understand. And I think a good point to point out for that is that if you haven't had work experience, please do think about the projects you've done inside your studies. And even if you've done some sort of tutoring or anything like that, highlight that on your CV. Because yeah, it doesn't matter if you haven't had an internship, you should still apply for us, and we'd love to see your application. I just thought maybe just to wrap it up, Candice, if you've got anything that you'd like to add, maybe a misconception about PwC before you joined, and kind of similar to Myra, I very intimidated by PwC, but it's definitely not scary at all. But yeah, maybe if you've got anything, Candice.
Yeah, I'll probably keep it quite brief because I think Myra did a great job kind of rounding out PwC. But I think there's what I think is a big misconception, and probably in relation to all big four companies, that it is scary and very intimidating and you don't get much partner time, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. I guess what wakes me up every morning is, if you put the work aside, you got to come to work and you got to enjoy the people that you like work with, and you got to gel with them, and you got to be in a really collaborative and inclusive environment and culture. And that is exactly what PwC Legal is. I interview with a bunch of traditional law firms, and my interview with PwC Legal was actually more of a conversation, and it was more of a, I'm going to get to know you and you can also get to know me. And that is how we typically tend to roll out our interviews. It's very much a kind of values and purpose kind of interview, as opposed to let me ask you all these really hard questions, which I think just speaks to us as a whole. We're very purposeful. We are such an inclusive environment that it's very different to what my friends experience at traditional law firms. We're very non-hierarchical. We've got quite a flat structure. So we hot desk, and you could be sitting next to a partner day and they will just be chatting to you all day about anything and everything, about what music they're listening to or what they did on the weekend. And it's very much an environment that I thrive in, because I want to be able to talk to my coworkers. I want to be able to rock up to a partner and say, hey, actually, I don't understand this. Can we go over to the whiteboard and can you actually explain this to me in a bit more detail? And that is just an environment that I thrive in, that I learn a lot in. And that's what I really enjoy about it. And probably the big misconception is that you just don't get a lot of that, and you totally do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So thank you so much. Just to wrap it up, I'll just move us through back to the presentation. Share my screen. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I just wanted to give a big shout out to our PwC challenge. It's still open, and if you are interested, please do enter. There's some really great prizes that you can win, and it's talking about literally everything we've spoken about today, which is mainly our values and our purpose. So have a look and see if you want to enter. The main prize is a $500 Restaurant Association voucher and $500 to a charity of your choice. So really cool prizes, and yeah, would be keen to see your entries. We also have a keep in touch portal. So this is, if you wanted to sign up to this, you would be able to stay in touch with us, and we will be emailing you when applications open, anything cool we're doing in the firm, and then hopefully once we're back in the office and back to normal, we'll be able to, do some cool office tours, especially of our Auckland office. It's really flash, and I really think we should show it off more. And yeah, thank you so much again, and really appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing your applications on the 7th of March. If you don't get it on the 7th of March, we are doing a second round of recruitment in July. So you'll be hearing from us again nearing that time as well. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone from PwC. If anyone else has got any more questions, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Bella. And we made it in under time. Good work, everybody.
And I think we had 10 students attending at the peak.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I think also today's a really busy day for the UC students with all the presentations. So
yeah,
no, that was awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Nicole, Myra, and Candice, yeah, thanks so much for joining, and I'll message you guys after this. But yeah, really appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Cool. Bye.
See ya.